In today's video, you'll learn something that can really help you. So like it and subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. Let's get started.
A civil engineer with a master's degree is selling candy on the street. A cardiologist drives a taxi 16 hours a day. A lawyer who graduated from one of the best universities in the country works as a cleaner. Meanwhile, a mechanic without a university diploma feeds his family comfortably. A plumber trades his services for fresh food and never goes hungry. An electrician has a waiting list of clients willing to pay any price. This is not fiction. This happened in Venezuela in 2016. It is happening now in some places around the world. And it can happen where you live. The question no one wants to ask is simple and frightening. When everything collapses, is your diploma worth anything? Do your professional credentials guarantee your survival? The answer that history gives us, repeatedly, is no. There is an invisible pattern that repeats itself in every economic collapse of the last 100 years. A pattern that completely inverts the social hierarchy we know. Professions considered prestigious turn to dust. Occupations seen as inferior become gold currency. And the difference between those who eat and those who starve is not on the resume, but in the hands. In Venezuela in 2016, inflation destroyed the value of the currency in a matter of months. Hospitals closed due to lack of resources. Law offices became empty buildings. Companies laid off workers en masse. Suddenly, a diploma hanging on the wall meant absolutely nothing. Being a doctor was useless without a hospital. Being a lawyer was irrelevant without functioning courts. Being an engineer was empty without projects or companies hiring. But do you know who kept working? Who kept eating? The mechanic who fixed old cars in exchange for food. The plumber who repaired burst pipes for a few kilos of rice. The electrician who restored power to homes in exchange for basic goods. These people did not need institutions to be functioning. They did not depend on bureaucratic systems. They did not wait for companies to hire them. They simply solved real problems for real people. Here is something that goes against everything you were taught in school. Credentials are fragile. Diplomas depend on structures that can evaporate overnight. Your university education assumes hospitals open, courts operating, companies functioning, money being worth something. When these structures fall, your professional title falls with them. Practical skills, on the other hand, are collapse-proof. They work without currency. They work without government. They work without bureaucracy. They meet human needs that never disappear, no matter the chaos in place. People will always need running water, electricity, food, transportation, repairs. Always. This is not theory. It is historical fact, proven dozens of times. Germany, 1923. The hyperinflation of the Weimar Republic destroyed the economy. Accountants and bureaucrats starved because their skills only worked inside offices that no longer existed. Carpenters and craftsmen traded work for bread and survived. Their knowledge transcended money. Cuba, 1991. The collapse of the Soviet Union cut off the country's resources. Doctors abandoned medicine to drive tourist taxis because their credentials became legal barriers to survival. Being a doctor required a hospital. Driving a taxi required only an old car and willingness. United States, 1933. Great Depression. Bankers lost everything. Prestigious professionals begged in the streets. But those who knew how to fix things, grow food, build with their hands, those people traded services and ate better than the ruined elite. Russia, 1992. Collapse of the USSR. Academics died of hunger, while families who knew how to grow home gardens survived. Theoretical knowledge feeds no one when the shelves are empty. Do you see the pattern? In every collapse, the same brutal inversion. Valued professions become dead weight. Disdained occupations become salvation. And millions of educated and talented people discover too late that they bet everything on a system that can disappear. If you are enjoying this analysis, subscribe to the channel and like the video. And leave in the comments which city or country you are watching from. I want to know how far this reflection is reaching. Now comes the part that is truly frightening. This did not stay in the past. The world does not need to enter total collapse for you to feel this in your own skin. A deep recession is enough. A regional crisis. A violent technological shift. And suddenly, what you studied for years loses its market overnight. Look at what is happening right now, at this very moment, in developed economies. Over the last 10 years, jobs for electricians have grown by 40%. Openings for plumbers have increased by 35%. Demand for mechanics has risen consistently. Meanwhile, administrative positions have declined. Office jobs have shrunk. Professions that depend on repetitive cognitive tasks are bleeding. Why? Because these occupations depend on stable companies, predictable economies, corporate structures functioning perfectly. When any piece of that machinery fails, these jobs evaporate first. They're the first cut, the first automated, the first outsourced. Now, add artificial intelligence to that equation. The same technology that promises to revolutionize everything is destroying exactly the professions that were already vulnerable in historical collapses. Accountants being replaced by software, lawyers losing ground to legal analysis algorithms, financial analysts competing with machines that process data millions of times faster. Do you know which professions artificial intelligence cannot easily replace? Plumber, electrician, mechanic, refrigeration technician, welder, carpenter. Because these skills require physical presence, adaptation to the real environment, creative problem solving for unique situations. A clogged pipe in each house is different. An old electrical installation presents specific challenges. A broken engine has its own particularities. Machines still do not dominate the unpredictable physical world. And in the meantime, routine cognitive professions are being digitized without mercy. Here is the uncomfortable truth. The educated elite built its security on sand. It bet everything on credentials that only have value within stable systems. It specialized in functions that only exist when everything is working perfectly. And now it faces a double threat. Economic collapses on one side, intelligent automation on the other. Meanwhile, specialized manual professions have become rare. There is a shortage of qualified labor. Young people were pushed into universities for decades under the promise that a diploma was synonymous with a guaranteed future. The result? A critical shortage of skilled technicians, an excess of indebted graduates competing for increasingly scarce jobs. The inversion has already begun, just silently. An experienced plumber in some cities earns more than a newly graduated lawyer. An electrician with a good reputation has a full schedule while architects look for work. Specialized technicians negotiate conditions while analysts accept increasingly lower salaries. But there is a cruel detail in all of this. These practical skills are not learned by watching YouTube videos. They are not mastered by reading books. They require years of practice, mistakes, successes, real experience. They require getting your hands dirty, failing, starting over. They require humility to learn from those who already know. And most educated people never develop this. They spent 20 years inside classrooms, libraries, offices. They built their entire identity on diplomas and certificates. Now they look at their hands and realize they do not know how to fix absolutely anything. When the crisis knocks on the door, it is no use showing your academic record. It is no use listing your academic achievements. People want to know if you solve their problem, if you fix the leak, if you restore the electricity, if you make the car work again. Direct usefulness becomes currency. Practical knowledge becomes power. And credentials become worthless paper. This creates a specific kind of despair. You invested years of your life, tens of thousands in tuition, sacrificed youth and energy to build a career. And then you discover that all of this depends on fragile structures that can collapse. That your expertise only works within a system that may not exist 5 years from now. Meanwhile, the mechanic on the corner, who never set foot in a university, sleeps peacefully knowing that there will always be broken cars. So how does this end? Where does this historical pattern lead us? The answer is happening now, in real time, and most people are not noticing. We are entering an era where two economic classes will form. Not rich and poor in the traditional sense, but useful and useless. Those whose skills transcend systems, and those who only function within them. Think about it. A doctor without a hospital is just someone with theoretical knowledge of anatomy. A lawyer without a court is merely a person who memorized laws. An accountant without a company is useless. But a plumber without a plumbing company is still a plumber. An electrician without a boss still solves electrical problems. A mechanic without a workshop still fixes engines. Do you see the brutal difference? One class depends on infrastructure. The other is the infrastructure. And here is the point that destroys the argument of traditional meritocracy. It is not a question of intelligence. It is not about cognitive ability. Doctors and engineers are brilliant. The problem is that their intelligence was channeled into functions that only exist in perfectly stable societies. It was optimized for a world that may cease to exist. The last 3 generations were taught that formal education is the only path. That manual labor is for those who have no choice. That the goal is to leave the working class, never return. We build an entire educational system based on this comfortable lie. The result? Entire societies full of people overqualified in tasks that machines can do and underqualified in skills that guarantee real survival. Now, comes the part that no one wants to admit. When you see this pattern, when you understand this dynamic, 3 things become clear and frightening. First, your diploma is not safe. It never was. It is an asset that only has value under specific conditions. Like shares of a company. When conditions change, the value collapses. And conditions always change. Second, you probably do not have the right skills. Take the simple test. If tomorrow money loses value, if your company closes, if the system enters a crisis, can you trade work for food? Can you offer something that people urgently need? If the answer is no, you are vulnerable. Third, the time to change this is running out. Because practical skills take years to develop. You do not learn plumbing in 3 months. You do not master electrical work by watching tutorials. You do not become an experienced mechanic by reading manuals. These competencies require time, practice, failure, real learning. And while you delay, the window closes. The crisis approaches. Automation advances. Structures weaken. But there is something even deeper in all of this. Something that strikes at people's identity. Because admitting this reality means admitting that you bet wrong. That you sacrificed years of your life building castles of sand. That your pride is founded on fragile credentials. It is too painful. So most people ignore it. They continue believing that the system will hold. That things will stabilize. That their education will be worth it in the end. Until it is not. Look at the situation with brutal clarity. Every collapse of the last 100 years followed exactly the same script. Structures fall. Credentials evaporate. Practical skills save lives. Without exception. Without variation. Always. The question is not whether this will happen again. History has already answered that. The question is when, and whether you will be prepared or will be on the wrong side of the inversion. Because when your turn comes, when the crisis knocks on your door, it will not help to say that you did not know. It will not help to complain that no one warned you. The warnings are on every page of history. In every previous collapse. In every qualified professional who starved while manual workers survived. The signs are all there. Growth of practical professions. Decline of bureaucratic ones. Automation accelerating. Instability increasing. Structures weakening. And you, watching this, need to decide. Ignore it and hope to get lucky? Or act while there is still time? Before you think this is an attack on education, it is not. Formal education has immense value. Diplomas open doors. Specialized knowledge builds civilizations. The problem was never studying. The problem is depending exclusively on it. The solution is not to abandon your profession and become a plumber tomorrow. The solution is to understand a truth that our grandparents knew and we forgot. Skill diversification is not a luxury. It is survival. Your great-grandparents knew how to fix things. They knew how to grow food. They knew how to build, repair, improvise. Not because they were less intelligent than you, but because they lived in times where depending on only one specialized skill was far too risky. They saw wars, depressions, crises. They learned through pain that those who know how to do many things survive better than those who know how to do only one. So the lesson is not to reject advanced knowledge. It is to add layers of resilience. It is to build a portfolio of skills that work in different scenarios. Some that shine when everything is going well. Others that save you when everything collapses. Think of it this way. Your diploma is a high-risk, high-reward investment. In good times, it yields a lot. In bad times, it can become nothing. Practical skills are low-risk investments with guaranteed returns. They will never make you rich quickly, but they will never let you go hungry. Diversified financial portfolios protect against market collapses. Diversified skills protect against societal collapses. And here is what no one tells you. Learning practical skills does not diminish you. It does not make you less intellectual. It does not invalidate your education. In fact, it makes you more complete, more capable, more independent, more human. There is something deeply liberating about knowing how to fix things with your own hands, about not depending on others to solve basic problems, about looking at a physical challenge and being confident that you can solve it. This is not a downgrade. It is real empowerment. The practical path is simple, but it requires humility. Choose a manual skill that interests you at least a little. Carpentry, basic electrical work, vehicle mechanics, residential plumbing, welding, food cultivation, anything tangible, useful, that meets real needs. Dedicate time, weekends, a few hours a week. Learn from those who know. Pay for courses. Make mistakes. Fix things at home. Help friends. Practice until the knowledge becomes instinct. In 5 years, you have a second layer of security. In 10, you master something valuable. And when the crisis comes, if it comes, you do not panic. Because you know you have options. You have usefulness. You have value that transcends systems. But beyond individual preparation, there is a necessary cultural shift. We need to stop despising manual labor. Stop pushing every young person toward university as if it were the only option. Stop treating technical professions as failure. Healthy societies respect both the neurosurgeon and the electrician. They value equally those who design buildings and those who build them. They understand that civilization needs both, and that in critical moments, those who build and repair may be more essential than those who design and manage. The moral lesson is harsh but necessary. Systems fail. They always have. They always will. Structures that seem eternal collapse. Currencies that seem solid turn to dust. Jobs that seem guaranteed evaporate. What survives? Your real ability to solve real problems. Your direct usefulness. Your skilled hands. Your practical knowledge. So if you're watching this and feeling discomfort, great. Discomfort is the first step toward change. Now turn that discomfort into action. Learn something new. Develop real competence. Build true resilience. And if you want to keep following content that challenges your certainties and prepares you for the real world, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and leave in the comments where you're watching from. I want to know who is really paying attention to signs. Because when everything collapses around you, you will be grateful you paid attention today.